Dave, I asked for one thing from Tennessee this week. Show the college football world why you are worthy of a playoff spot. Don't just put yourself in. Actually prove your value. Play 4 quarters of consistent football. And really, after they got down 14-0, they did. Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered's postgame show. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson, breaking down everything that we saw in Nashville as the Volunteers all but guaranteed their spot in the Dozen Dance with a 36-23 victory over the Commodores. Real quickly, make sure that you like the video, hit that ring notification down below because this is your number one source for all things SEC moving forward, especially with the college football playoffs upon us. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow Dave at Mock 10 Sports. Me at Mr. Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. This postgame show is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks, the official sponsor of the SEC Unfiltered Tour, which is live right now down in College Station. And if you want us to come to your town, let us know in the comments section. But you should probably go also let Prize Picks know why they are the number one fantasy app for you during the college football and college basketball season. Because you're not picking players on certain points to get. You're picking the over or under. Do you believe that Nico Iamaleava in the postseason is going to throw for over 150 yards? Do you believe that Dylan Sampson is going to run for over 200 yards? If you do so, put some money on it. And Prize Picks is going to give you a $50 instant play when you use the promo code SECU with your first $5 lineup. So, go to prizepicks.com, use the promo code SECU at sign up. Again, it's $50 from us and from Prize Picks. Dave, it was a solid performance. Down early, not out of the count. You watched as there were a couple of egregious plays, even for my money when it comes to SEC officiating. But once Nico Iamaleava got comfortable, once the turnover stopped, once you didn't see the fumble from Dylan Sampson, once you got past the interception, this was a performance to where when you're going to say to the College Football Playoff Committee, we're 10-2, but we're a strong 10-2. We proved today on the road we can dominate in any environment. This is one of those games where I will look back and say Tennessee earned their right to be in the college football playoff.
Yeah, I mean, 10-2, it's about what I think I had them at 10-2. This is about right. Again, has it been a pretty season? No, but again, Tennessee fans, do we forget how little a couple of years ago with the Derek Dooley, Butch Jones, the one year Lane Kiffin, who actually did a solid job in that 1 year he was there. You throw in guys like that, hey, 10-2, you're in the college football playoff. I actually thought this was your most complete game of the season. I know that sounds crazy because you got down 14-0, but the positive thing was you're 14-0, but there was still like 12 minutes left in the first quarter. So it's like, I mean, shoot, if we were going to get down 14-0, I'd rather them run a kickoff back on us and not take too much time. I mean, again, we all know you only get about 9-10 possessions against Vanderbilt. I think they had Vanderbilt figured out. I mean, I thought they did a phenomenal job defensively limiting Vanderbilt overall to what do we have? It's 108 yards, 3.5 yards per carry. Again, you take away the turnover, you take away the fumble, which I thought could have been reviewed.
Yeah, I think so too.
You also take away the kickoff return. And I thought the change of the game where you felt like the tides were turning for Tennessee is after the Nico pick, they held them in check. Because what was the score there? Was it 14-3?
It was 14-3 at that point, I believe.
Yeah, and you got a turnover from Nico. Nico threw a pick, and you're like, oh my gosh, dude, Vandy, things are going their way. You got
it was my apologies. It was a 17-7 at that point. My apologies.
Yeah, 17-7. You're right, Bear. Good job. And it was like, dang, dude. I mean, they legitimately could. Like, Vanderbilt may be on to something here again. Look out. Nope. Tennessee's defense, one of the deepest defensive lines in the country. I mean, you saw the stat. They posted 9 to 10 dudes that play like 100-plus snaps on that defensive line. It's unbelievable. But I thought this was the most complete game of the season. I've been looking for a complete performance from Tennessee all year. And again, I keep saying it's wild. But I feel like at least the second quarter on, they kind of dominated this game. They outscored them, looking at 29-6 in the second quarter.
They outscored them after the first quarter, 29-6.
Yeah.
Dominant performance.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I thought it was their best game of the season. Even against Alabama, I thought it was obviously a good win, but it still was kind of sloppy, choppy at times. NC State could have been another win that you thought you played well, but outside of that, you just never put together two good halves. Here, I don't think you put two full halves, obviously, because you got off to a bad start, but I think you put 3 really good quarters together against a team that's really dangerous, as we've seen this year with Vanderbilt and the wins they have. No one's really blown them out or really controlled the game outside of Tennessee and South Carolina this year. But it's a 6-6 Vanderbilt team. You got off the mat early in a game that you're like, all right, man. I mean, they could have panicked potentially. Like we're seeing our season flash before our eyes, and we're down here 14-0 against a team that's not going to give us a lot of possessions. We started off slow. Give them credit. Again, I'm with you, Cole. I think Tennessee is definitely in the college football playoff. Obviously, they won't be in Atlanta. That's down to 3 teams. But I think Tennessee will probably playing an extra game in the playoffs to maybe get that extra week next week to get a little healthy before the playoffs.
Honestly, I think that they would much rather not be in the SEC championship at this point, simply because if they don't want any margin for error, give up anything else, they don't want to lose any players. The fact they were down 14-0, I think speaks volume of the direction that Clark Lee has turned this Vanderbilt team. You get the big run by Junior Sherrill on the kickoff return, the fumble by Dylan Sampson. Again, me personally, I thought that could have been reviewed. I think it probably should have been reviewed, but regardless, they're able to capitalize. I thought that also the maturity of Nico Iamaleava was on display after being down 14-0. That was a drive you had to walk away with points. And to be able to connect with Dante Thornton for a 26-yard score, the fact that he had 2 big third down conversions on the drive, the fact that he was able to keep momentum moving in the right direction, the fact that you had Dylan Sampson be able to get a big-time run, the pass to Chris Brazzell right before the score, that was where you see what Nico Iamaleava can be. And again, we talk about Lenore Sellers being the most improved player in college football this year. I think Nico was the second most improved in the SEC with the confidence level. There weren't as many errant throws as we saw a couple weeks ago. There weren't as many bad drops in this performance. And it was right on the money multiple times, whether it be to Dante Thornton, whether it be to Chris Brazzell, Brew McCoy. Mike Matthews had a big role in this game. I hope that Josh Heupel at this point realizes number 10 is somebody that you have to utilize in the playoff. That is your bread and butter foundational wide receiver for the long-term future. It was an overall strong performance from this offense once they got settled in. And it was a strong performance again from Dylan Sampson, who rushed for 176 yards. They averaged 6 yards per play on the ground. They were able to create turnovers defensively. It was a game to where when you look back, if that's the version of Tennessee that we're going to see in the playoffs, even when down, you can't count them out. There's a lot to like about the direction of what this offense can be. And you already know this defense is going to deliver 4 quarters of pain.
Yeah. No, I mean, defense is going to keep them in every game against other good teams now and again. I don't think I was talking last night on our Georgia Tech reaction. I was throwing Ohio State in there. Anybody can get God on any day in this. I mean, I truly believe that, even more so than 2007. I mean, this season's more wild than 2007 was, and that was the wildest college football season of my lifetime before this one. Yeah, I mean, Tennessee's going to – the offense would scare me to go win a national title, but I do think the defense, game in, game out, is going to keep them in. You like Jermod McCoy. Again, I mean, it fell on top of him, but he was in good phase, made the play, tipped it away. He made an interception. Again, I think he's the best DB they've had, certainly under Heupel. But probably
I would say so.
Probably since Eric Berry, potentially.
I'd agree with that one. I think
no, I mean, Tennessee's going to be comfortable in the playoffs. What do you think, Cole? I mean, they came in at, the 8th seed this past week? What was it?
They're not going to drop.
They were the 9th seed. They were going to Athens again.
At this point, the question is, are they going to host a playoff game? After what happened today with Ohio State, what could happen with the ACC depending on their matchups? Other teams losing. Could they host a playoff game? I think so. I think that kind of you want to see a playoff game. From my personal opinion, I've said this a billion times. I love Neyland Stadium. I think it is the second greatest atmosphere in college football in the SEC, only behind Death Valley. Like, besides that, Neyland is number 2 for me. And I think a playoff game in Neyland Stadium at night in December is probably the ultimate Christmas gift that you could get to the SEC. It's one of those games to where you're going to throw it out there and say, hey, you want to go have one of the biggest and brightest moments in college football? A game that we have been waiting for years on end for this environment to reach new heights. That feels very stable. And I think at this point, they've shown you enough to where, yes, they can. I don't know if they will. It's all out of their control at this point, but you do get a win. And at this point, you also guarantee that you're at least going to be in the playoff, whether that be on the road in State College, whether that be at home at Neyland, somewhere else in the Southern region, in the Midwest. You're in the postseason, and that's good enough, I think, at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, they're hoping. I mean, Penn State's losing right now. Notre Dame's up. Miami's up. And then Georgia, obviously, is the head-to-head. I think Georgia's going to be ahead of Tennessee, probably.
Oh, until they lose.
No matter what. If Miami wins, they'll stay ahead. Obviously, a win-loss. Same with Notre Dame, Penn State. Yeah, I mean, just off the lack of teams potentially lose. I mean, Tennessee can move up all the way, I think, to either the 6th spot or it could probably just stay at the 8th. I mean, I think Tennessee's pretty locked into the 6th through 8th seed, honestly. But, I mean, we'll say that. That's hosting a game. That's hosting a home game, either way you look at it. So, I mean, they probably do. I guess I mean, obviously depends maybe what Indiana – who gets in, Bear? Who's the other Big Ten? I know we're talking Tennessee here, but Indiana, Penn State. Who wins that tiebreaker in the Big Ten to go play Oregon?
Right now, Penn State wins the in. That's it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was just making
Penn State
sure.
wins the in.
So Penn State would be in. I mean, if Penn State loses, they probably get the 5 seed. It depends. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think Tennessee's got a pretty good shot. I'd say about a 60-70% shot to host a home game. Am I wrong when you're looking at that too, just to get another set of eyes on there?
I would say probably about a 60-70% shot to get.
Yeah, you feel pretty good about that. And as you know, like you said, I mean, you'd feel pretty good about Tennessee playing anybody in Neyland. I mean, anybody, even Oregon. I mean, again, the way college football is this year, I think home field's as important as ever. I'm usually a guy that's, hey, the win. Football is usually 7-8 times out of 10 the better team wins. Doesn't matter where it's played. This year, I really do think it matters where it plays. I think two things would be true. This year's an exception to the rules. I mean, Tennessee at home, that's dangerous. That's dangerous. And now, if you get them in a neutral field, maybe a little different conversation, but dangerous at home, certainly against anybody.
I was very impressed with the response by Tennessee's defense in this game. They had 4.5 tackles for, they had 5.5 tackles for losses. They had 3 sacks on the day. Really kind of everyone stepped up. Will Brooks had a decent performance. Omar Norman Lott had a decent performance. Brian Eason had a strong performance. They each were credited with at least 1 sack and 1 tackle for loss. Arian Carter was tackled for a PBU. There's a lot to like about this defense. And again, this is why I think that Tim Banks needs to be at the forefront of conversations for a G5 job if he wants one, because the defense kept them in games. But we also saw at times the growth, the maturity, the balance of the offense. We watched as the play calling started to pick up steam. And you know what's really interesting, Dave, is that this was a performance when we were doing the preview. I said, if you're Vanderbilt, as much as you would love to sit by and say our offensive time of possession, one of the best in the SEC, one of the best in college football, is going to benefit us. They won the time of possession. It didn't matter because of this up-tempo offense is so quick at striking. They will catch you slipping, and they'll be off to the races. Dylan Sampson had 3 big runs. Deshaun Bishop had 2 runs of over 10 yards. You watch as Nico Iamaleava had 2 runs of over 10 yards. You watch as Peyton Lewis got some carries. So there's enough here to say, if that explosive offense can catch defenses slipping, their defense is going to force a lot of 3-and-outs. Their offense is going to put them in position to at least walk away with the field goal. And today, again, field goal special teams, I thought that was a very underlying trait. After they gave up that big 98-yard run to Junior Sherrill, it was kind of like, we're back in our element. We're not going to allow things. They got 2 punts down inside the 10-yard line.
What happened to Dylan Sampson? What was the injury there? He went off a little bit with anything, which would concern me. Again, I'm not trying to amplify something it's not. I just remember seeing him going off. It made me think. Let me type in. I don't know if he came back, but he definitely went out for a minute. Let's see.
Dylan Sampson. They said that he set the record.
He's out of the injury tent, has his helmet. Now he's jogging a little, so he must have getting looked at. All I see is getting looked at. Deshaun Bishop's drive here is Dylan Sampson appears to be injury tent. May have just been something he got checked out at. I just remember him going out for a minute.
I say he's going to play in the postseason. Like he's not going to miss a game. And more importantly, he shouldn't. Because if this was a guy that absolutely I would have felt for, like I would have sat there and I would have been so frustrated as a volunteer fan if he sets the single season rushing record as a guy that kind of was lost in translation last year because so much focus was in on Jalen Wright. So much focus was in on Jabari Small. Yeah. And you and I talked about this throughout the offseason. A lot of people were down on Tennessee's running back room, not because of they didn't think that it could be good. They didn't know anything about it. And the fact that now he leaves Rocky Top, at least in the regular season, as the all-time leading rusher in a single season performance. He's not going to be a Doak Walker Award finalist, which pisses me off, and it pisses off, I know, most volunteer fans. He's not going to be a Heisman finalist. Unfortunately, it is what it is. But he's a dude that is probably the sole reason offensively in the SEC this year you can claim a playoff spot. Yeah. You can now say, because of our defense delivered and he stepped up, we are going to be in the dozen dance. A trait that we thought was probably possible going into the year, but now the expectations have met the reality. We're here. We've arrived. We're not slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, it is a joke he's not on the Doak Walker Award because
it's egregious. I'm sorry.
He's the only consistent thing Tennessee's had on offense this whole year where you can bank on. And I think they've kind of given him too many carries at times. I think two things could be true at once. I think they've kind of got fortunate he hasn't gotten banged up because no one's really stepped up as that number 2. It's kind of been like a committee. It's someone it's different every week, which is fine. But like, I think most Tennessee fans would be concerned too if it's like, Yeah, if he did go out, that would be, again, and you usually don't say that about a lot of running backs. Because to me, I mean, I'll say this, in the NFL, I think running backs, except the elite ones, are kind of, I always saw it as there was a few rare running backs that were just different, like the Todd Gurleys of the world, just people, the guys I've been around. And I think there's a lot of just pretty good running backs at the college level. I think you can win at the college level a lot of pretty good running backs because it's a lot of system-based. You're running against box numbers. Dylan Sampson definitely improved overall. I mean, his endurance, his duration throughout the season has been very impressive. And that's something I think I would even say I was wrong. I didn't think he could make it through the whole season with his body type, but I mean, I was wrong from that perspective. But I do think, I think at some point though, if they were to go win the whole thing, I think somebody's going to have to step up and help out at least in a game or two and kind of carry the load. Because I mean, it's a track that carries. I mean, if they played 4 or 5 extra games, 4 games, you know, carries that kid would have on the season, that would be, it's a lot. I mean, not saying he can't do it because I was wrong earlier on it, but yeah, if I was Tennessee's offense, I'd like to see somebody else step up here as we go into December to the playoffs and kind of help. But again, at this point in the year, who do you trust? Are you really going to try to get someone in that you're like, we're just trying to force this square peg into a round hole?
Well, Dave, think about this for a minute. You can also trust that now the wide receiver stepped on up because of today's performance. 3 drop passes. I can live with 3. The problem was that when you go back and you watch that game against Georgia, how many throws were right on the money that were just batted down by either a Brew McCoy or by a Dante Thornton? Dante Thornton today finished with over 115 yards. He averaged 39.3 yards per play, 2 touchdowns, including the 86-yard score. Chris Brazzell came up with 4 big catches, including 2 for over 21 yards. Miles Kitzelman got the touchdown. Mike Matthews had 3 catches for 30 yards in the touchdown pass. And he nearly had a second that was a PI in the back of the end zone. I mean, if you're not dropping the football and you're watching the growth and the maturity of this offense and the fact that Nico Iamaleava, after the first quarter, was only, I think, sacked 1 time. It's a sense that maybe you don't need to trust your ground game. Maybe you can trust your wide receivers, your tight ends to step on up, whether that be an Ethan Davis or a Miles Kitzelman or a Holden Stays or a Chris Brazzell or a Squirrel White, whoever that is. I think that's as important because the problem was the reason they ran Dylan Sampson into the ground this year was because you couldn't trust the wide receivers to break open and get the opener and make the big time catches. But you could trust that your running back, number 6, was going to get you 6 yards and put you in a position to where at least you're walking away with positive points.
Yeah. No, again, I think we can all agree. The offense got to take the next step to go ultimately win the prize Tennessee's hunting for. But again, 10-2 season, got to be fired up for them. Has it always been pretty? Has it been the progression you thought with Nico? No, I think he will be a really good player down the line. So down the line, though. So you got to be fired up. Tennessee fans got about 3 weeks to sit here and enjoy waiting on seeing who they potentially have a real shot to host a home playoff game.
Dave, before we get on out of here, we got to talk about Vanderbilt just a little bit. It felt like that the gas ran out after that first quarter. Like, when you take your first shot of pre-workout and then you're at the gym and you get that good pump in, and then by the time that you're midway through, you're kind of pushing your way to the finish line. That was Vanderbilt. They got the vibes really early on. They got a big call against Diego Pavia on the roughing the passer, which again I thought was egregious, but I'm not going to sit here and argue with that much. And then they just never could regain that momentum. And it wasn't just because of Tennessee has an up-tempo offense that's going to catch you slipping at the wrong time. It's simply just the athletes that you have. It's just
also
the players.
Tennessee's depth on the defensive line, and it's not, and a couple of guys for Vanderbilt going down on the offensive line. I think that's what it was. Like, it was just like, yeah, they're not going to be able to stand this because Tennessee kept hitting Pavia. It's like, to Cole, to your point, not only do I feel like Vanderbilt kind of ran out of steam in this game, kind of just felt like after the Auburn win, it was just like they excelled. That's really kind of what it felt like.
Yeah.
Kind of like. And I get it. We go back to depth. Like they let all the air out. It was just kind of like, we got to our 6th win. Like, it was like, well, they still have 3 or 4 more games to go get to 7.
Dave, you know what's
like the blueprint had been put out on them. Like, offensively, had to put them out. Again, injuries, they're not going to have the depth. I mean, I still say, though, you got to give Clark Lee SEC Coach of the Year. You hate it for Shane Beamer this year because he did a good job. South Carolina go 9-3. But anytime in today's college football that you can go 6-6 at Vanderbilt, dude, I got to give you SEC Coach of the Year.
I think that there's a legit argument for both. I won't be upset if either one gets it. You know what I will be upset with, though, is that if Diego Pavia, who had to start his career at a junior college, does not get the waiver to come back next season, I think that you can sell a program based off the style of offense with the militant offensive personnel. that gets you the ability to keep things interesting. The problem was it ran out of steam. Dave, what's been the one emphasis all year for Vanderbilt? Live in third and short, convert. Be great on third down. You struggled. You went 4 of 10. You went 0 of 1 on fourth down conversions. It led to 212 yards of offense. That's not an insult. For a team like Vanderbilt that is now going to its first bowl game since 2017-18, I think that you can at least say there's a lot to think is positively moving in the right direction. The problem is that this was one of those games where once the momentum was on your side, you want to close the gap. You want to guarantee no questions asked. We run the state of Tennessee. Maybe a kid that was looking at Tennessee is now going to come to Vanderbilt. You didn't have the athletes today. That's all it was. It was a strong performance from Clark Lee. A lot to hold your hat on. You beat the number 1 team in the country in your own backyard when it felt like it was 80-20 Alabama fans. You kept things interesting against a Missouri squad. You kept things close at times in the first half against Tennessee. You beat Auburn on the road. Baba Yaga had his redemption moment and went 3-0 against Hugh Freeze in his career. Like, there's so much that you can say is a positive in the direction for Vanderbilt. It just wasn't your day, and Tennessee was going to leave. No doubt they were going to the playoff this year.
No, agree. Got to be fired up for Tennessee. 10-2 season. It'd be good for college football. I kind of hate when we say that sometimes because, I think it's all good for college football, but it would be good. It'd be a great environment if Neyland Stadium is to host the college football playoff. It would be a tough task for whoever gets that chore.
Dave, I'm going to say the quiet part that many people are already thinking, but I'll just say it for them. I enjoy when there's parity in this sport. I enjoy when teams of dominance and prominence actually get to be the perceived contenders. It's great when Alabama is good at college football. It's great when Notre Dame is good at college football. It's great when USC is good at college football. And it is fantastic when Rocky Top is rolling into a college football playoff. So from Dave Shumate and Cole Thompson, round of applause. Round of applause. Round of applause for you. Round of applause for you, balls. Rocky Top, you'll always be home sweet home to me. Good old Rocky Top. Woo! Playoffs can you see? Because you're going to the playoff. So playoffs can you see? Like, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure that you follow us on all the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Real quickly, make sure that also you hit that ring notification because Dave Shumate and I will be going live after the Iron Bowl, after the Lone Star Showdown, and depending on what happens out in Como, we may be doing a live stream from that, especially if you like this video and tell us, hey, do the live stream from that performance. But make sure that also you're following us on the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Download the podcast version of the show. Follow Dave at Mach 10 Sports, me at Mr. Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. Rocky Top rolls its way into the college football playoff in Vanderbilt. It's a strong season. Don't doubt yourself. Peace.